When COVID-19 began, an Indonesian finance official was told to study the Spanish flu. The assignment went to economist Masita Crystalline. She worked as Director General for Financial Sector Stability and Development at the Ministry of Finance. That role sat close to crisis response and policy design. The finance minister wanted history, not nostalgia. Studying the Spanish flu could help shape unconventional economic policies when normal playbooks were too slow. That meant looking beyond standard budget tools and into how earlier shocks changed labor, demand, and public confidence. The ministry needed options for a fast-moving crisis. The wider lesson was simple. A century-old pandemic became a reference point for a new one. Masita later moved on to strategic work at Danantara. In 2025, the Pfizer Building was cited as the largest office-to-residential conversion in the United States. That meant a commercial office tower was being repurposed for people to live in, putting housing supply and commercial property in the same project. The change was not just cosmetic. The building's use was being changed from desks and meetings to residential space, which is a different operating budget and a different kind of demand. Its citation mattered because of scale, not a single renovation. A whole office tower became a landmark example of conversion work at national level. The result was a visible sign that vacant commercial space can become housing, one large building at a time. The tower became part of the record of how cities can reuse what already stands. The first bank of the Republic of Lithuania went bankrupt after just 9 years. That made it the country's first national banking experiment, and it never reached old age. The bank itself is the story because its run ended before stability could take hold. Bankruptcy is the legal point where a bank cannot meet its obligations. In this case, that process ended the institution instead of letting it slowly mature. The result was a first bank that survived only 9 years, far too short for a young institution meant to anchor trust. Its failure became part of the historical record instead of a foundation for expansion. What remains is a simple measure of fragility, a national first bank that disappeared before it could become stable. In banking history, 9 years is a very short life. A South Australian court said you can be liable for other people's defamatory comments on your social media post. It came from a civil case in South Australia's District Court between Mark Aldridge and a shop owner. The dispute centered on comments left under a social media post. The court treated the post owner as more than a bystander. If defamatory comments stayed under the post, responsibility could attach to the person who published the post. That ruling shifted the legal risk from the commenter alone to the person managing the post. Online moderation became part of the liability picture. For anyone using social media, leaving harmful replies in place can now carry wider consequences. The post itself can become the legal problem. Some Japanese railway companies have their own character mascots. That is unusual because mascots are usually linked to entertainment or tourism, not a transport operator. Here, the mascot belongs to the railway company itself, so it becomes part of the company's public identity. That turns a transport business into a more recognizable public brand, beyond trains and timetables alone. The result is a business identity strategy built around characters, helping the railway present itself as familiar and approachable. The voice of the UK X Factor narrated 30,000 adverts. That linked a familiar television voice to commercial advertising work. It was not one campaign but repeated voiceover jobs. The job was advertising voiceover where one recording can be reused across many spots. That made volume the real story. 30,000 adverts means the voice kept returning to the same commercial pipeline. The number shows scale, not a one-off burst. So a TV voice became part of a huge amount of advertising, far beyond one show. In business terms, the career was built on repeat demand and constant narration. Ammon G. Carter Jr. sold newspapers as a child, even though his father was already a successful businessman. That puts family success and child labor in the same frame. The job was simple: sell papers one by one, face to face. He was not starting with comfort. He was starting with direct selling, where every sale depended on a quick pitch and a customer saying yes. That early work experience gave him a hands-on beginning instead of an easy one. It meant learning effort through repetition, not inheritance alone. The result is a childhood defined by direct selling, with a paper bundle in hand and work already part of daily life. Hilaire Belloc and G. Chesterton's first collaboration sold only 35 copies. That is a tiny sales figure for two writers who were already well known in literary circles. The work entered the market with almost no reach, so few readers ever saw it on sale. The result was a collaboration whose first commercial showing was limited to a handful of purchases. For Belloc and Chesterton, the first chapter was not a bestseller story, but a sales sheet with 35 copies on it.